Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Josiah. Welcome back to another episode of Josiah's Voice Film Podcast. Really excited for this talk today with the founder and head of Queens of Production, Miss Toni P. We're going to get into a lot about just all things filmmaking. We're going to be asking a lot of interesting questions about producing, about film editing, financing. We're just going to pick her brain about just everything that she knows about filmmaking. She's based in Los Angeles. And we just want to put you guys on to this educational session today. Be sure to follow all of her socials. I'll include all of those in the description of today's interview. Really excited. It's been a little while in the making. She and I were finally able to make it happen. And so without further ado, want to welcome founder of Queens of Production, Miss Toni P. Toni, welcome.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm doing wonderful. Yourself?
I'm doing pretty well. I literally have been excited for this interview for a while, so I'm ready for all the questions that you have in store to pick my brain.
Absolutely awesome. Thanks for joining me. Well, here, really quick, rapid fire origins. What should people know about you? Go.
Definitely that I am the queen of story, and honestly that I am an advocacy for anything crew to talent, but 100%. If you like see anything from the West Coast or like anything from LA, like I try my best to like give LA, Black history, and music because those are like my three things that I love.
Nice. Black history and music. That's awesome. Are you born and raised in Los Angeles?
Yes, born and raised in Los Angeles. And the one thing about Los Angeles is you have to be specific. So I actually originally am from North Hollywood, so like the Valley side. So,
Okay.
like some just White Chase, American Eagle, people was wearing Uggs, people thought celebrities were all over the place. But honestly, like North Hollywood really was the vessel of what I was introduced to diversity. Like there was Armenians at the time, Latinos was there at the time, Black people were actually there. Black people actually lived in Pacoima, and they literally Pacoima was the Black neighborhood before gentrification, and then a whole other culture came into play. But Black people did live over there, so I was able to get just a taste of everything the Cali way, which is a very interesting dynamic because Cali, you think Hollywood, you think lights, camera, action,
Right.
but really there's a lot of diversity and a lot of culture that once you get into Cali, specifically in the pocket, you will find so many different, like you'll be in the beach one day and you'll be over there in Twilight, over there in the forest another. So it's so many different pockets of California that you can investigate.
Not Twilight. Ha!
It
Oh,
is. Santa Barbara is definitely giving Twilight New Moon energy, where as far as, Venice Beach will give you the beach 100%.
yeah.
So it's fun to have like different places that you could be able to explore.
Yeah, Venice Beach is nice. I do miss being there. I had some writing sessions there, sometimes a little cafe. Of course, the beach and people are working out in the shops and swimming and
Oh
stuff
yes,
like that. So that's dope. Wow, you bring me back memories. For those of you who might be new to the
listen.
podcast, I lived in Los Angeles for 3 years and have since moved to the East Africa region. At the time of recording, I'm enjoying life on the island of Zanzibar, but I enjoyed as much of Los Angeles as I could. So that's great. Toni, you know what? What's something people get wrong? How do I want to ask? It's like, so you're a Los Angeles native. Like, what do people
Yes.
need to know? Because you're actually reminding me. Shout out to my buddy Amber, who's also a producer. She's been on the podcast in the past. She has some things to say about people coming to your city because she's born and raised. What do you need
Oh
to
yeah.
say so that things go smoothly, especially if you're in the entertainment industry at all? People coming to your city. What you need to tell them?
Oh yeah. What they consider is transplants, which it kind of seems weird. I don't know why they call them transplants. It sounds very surgical, which is just like weird. But
Right?
honestly, I would say, especially since I've been born and raised in California, and as much as honestly, it's been a flip because most people that live in California try to get out. So I was that one that tried to get out. Like I
Okay.
wanted to go to HBCU. I wanted getting accepted to Clark Atlanta University, but I just didn't get enough funds in that time. And there was just a lot of things that was going on. And so I wanted getting more money in Northern California. So I always wind up coming back home. I am like Dorothy with little Tutu. Okay, I come back home, and that's the cool thing about California is that you could travel, do all the things, but you just wind up just coming back home. It's just something about us. But those that don't have the experience, I will honestly say, don't let media be your decision on moving to California, especially that a lot of things have changed. The pandemic, the fires, tax incentives, even though they have been slowly approving, it's still taking time for a lot of the films and a lot of the projects that have been in those pockets that have been approved in those tax incentive, deals are not kicking just yet. Like they just kicked in this year. And also, too, the renewals of the DGA and the unions are coming up. So there is maybe a balance of another strike maybe happening. Hopefully the agreements with AI and, other things and ownership and IP and, Netflix buying Warner. But it's a lot going on in California. We are on ICU a little bit. So I would say in any space before you go anywhere, do your due diligence and do your research. Find out if there's even projects happening and find out if there's other storytelling genres, which now I've kind of pivoted into, that is available. This past weekend was the NBA All-Star weekend, and there was a lot of different opportunities from storytelling to production to even being, I know a lot of people that are, brand ambassadors for companies and things like that. So they were busy compared to Hollywood, which a lot of us are still not busy. So it's kind of figuring out what is the niche of work right now and seeing if it just makes sense. If you're a film student, of course, if you get accepted to the UCLA, USC, and the film programs that are really still strong, go for it. And especially if you get the funding and you get the scholarships and you get the backing, go for it. I say go for it and get the chance for it. But if you are not getting enough financial support and you're just coming in with $1 and a dream, I would think about the dream and the dollar before you go for it, And I think I honestly learned that from the pandemic. And I think a lot of people really had that wake up call when the double strike happened. So I would say still go for it. California still is that opportunity, but just banking on Hollywood, I would really say just do your little research before you jump in just yet. And if you do, find fellowships, find your tribe, find the place foundational first before coming in. It's kind of like what I would honestly say right now.
I like that last part, find the foundational first, actually. I know you hear all the time about people, like you said, that had $1 and a dream, and everyone's trajectory and journey is different, and that's okay. But now we're more connected than ever. We have podcasts, we have fellowships, the internet has connected us all, where there's a way to kind of know and scout out ahead of time, what's the nearest production city to me? Is Los Angeles where I need to be? What's happening over there? By the way, guys, I love what Toni was saying, because at the time of this episode, it's February. So she was talking seasonally about what was going on. You mentioned the WNBA and certain projects that were more available in certain genres than others. So I don't know when you're going to be watching this or anything like that, but that's great gems to be bearing in mind of the seasonal time. In fact, because I shouted out Amber earlier, when she and I were talking, she had done something that was seasonal to service actors during, I guess, December, January. It can be kind of dry. The downtime.
Yeah. But you have to know the schedule ahead of time. See, I learned that very, very early. I learned that when I was in my below the line era, as I would say.
PA days.
An executive assistant. Honestly, I wasn't a PA. I would say executive assistant. Honestly, I would say executive assistant and PAs do go hand in hand. Executive assistant is more what I would say a corporate PA. And then your PAs is, of course, your set PAs, or, if you are the PA to the CEO or the EP or all those entities. But I think EA and PA are the same because you're learning the basics. I would say EA and PA are what I would consider community college. You stay there for 2 years, you find out the basics and logistics of how to work the business of entertainment. What is treatment? What is documents? Who is a post supervisor compared to a talent manager? What are the steps from when the project gets pitched to when they sign the deal, to when it gets shot, to when it gets in, and how to understand deliverables and the language between the two. I was blessed to be able to be in those rooms with Pilgrim Studios. I was the exec assistant for the legal department and post-production. So I
Okay.
was literally had 10 attorneys on one side, and I had the SVP, VP of and director of post-production, which handling all the schedules of all the shows that were going in post. So I literally understood the business, which a lot of people, again, like you said, there's so many different journeys of how people get into. Some people come in on the creative side, which they
Right.
just go in Spike Lee version. They do go to film school, they find out the entities, and they get the education of creativity. Some people, which I still went to college. I went to college for dramatic arts, and I was able to get the basis from there. However, what was so cool about my school is that the professor was both in theater and he was in film and TV. He was
Oh,
his name was
wow.
Toni, and he was a scenic designer, and he was a scenic designer for Peter Pan in for the play, which wound up winning 1990. He wound up winning the 1992 Tony Awards for that, and then he wound up being the scenic designer for Star Trek, the film, like the TV series. So he
Wow.
always told us in class, or just even the professors that we had, just had that hybrid of understanding like you will may get a job in theater, but if you don't get that job, you always have a backup. And so I always had that general consensus of always making sure I had a plan and
Hmm.
making sure my skills preferably can pivot and maneuver over than rather than just the role. Because the role is just the role, and the role always evolves and sometimes gets dissipated, which we have seen now with a
Sure.
lot of merging, a lot of layoffs, a lot of let goes, a lot of roles that we used to have back in the day or he have either non-existent or coming to extinct or becoming bridged roles. So
Right.
I understood that the skills, if I focus on my skill sets, that will keep me booked and busy than just, oh, I just want to be a supervisor, producer, you know? And we'll go down as far as like how I got that wake up call, but definitely the skill sets over the role has been always been my mantra
No,
since college.
that's great. No, please, let's just go right into it. How would you pivot into, please, how did you get into that?
Yeah, so I would say honestly, how I got into Pilgrim Studios, I found it off Craigslist. So back in the day,
Yeah.
I came in during film and TV of the hype of reality or the hype of reality TV. So I
Okay.
would say I think I graduated college around 2014, and then I got my job at around like 2015, 2016.
Okay.
So yeah, around that 2015, 2017 mantra, it was like you literally would see ghost hunters, dance moms, and bring it. Welcome to Sweetie Pies, the Ultimate Fighter, with the people that was
Hmm.
into fighting and all that stuff.
Yeah.
To Wicked Tuna for the OGs and Discovery. Like we really was like reality TV was in different pockets, and then of course you have your I Love New York, Flavor of Love, VH1, Love and Hip Hop. Like it was starting to pop off the big fish. And all those different companies and entertainments was the Entertainment One. They were Murray, like those OGs of entertainment at the time were popping at those tables. Pilgrim was one of them because I would honestly say Pilgrim found a pocket on finding content and projects that were avant-garde of your usual. Of course, they were of like Bring It. They were able to Bring It, which was a platform for majorette and dance that was very much did not have a platform back then. And then, My Big Fat Fabulous Life was
Hmm.
bringing awareness to weight with TLC. Like they just had interesting relationships with different networks. They had TLC, Discovery, Lifetime, Fox, like just very entities. And then the founder of it, Craig Collegian, he was the creator and person that discovered Survivor. Like he was the one that created the show. And so
Oh,
he
wow. No
had
way.
those OG relationships to where I understood like the OG of entertainment business. He would have, and like the interesting thing about Pilgrim Studios is that the executive assistants were all in a pocket of where the C suite was. Like we were with the C suite hub. So like the executive assistants, it was me, and two other people. And then the development team was like around us. The attorneys was like around us. Craig Collegian's office was right across from my cubicle. So I would hear him yelling across and would make deals with people or just be mad at something that would happen on set. Like I would see it in real time. And even see my boss, Michael Perleski, who I love dearly. Um, his office was right there. So I would see him have to get into the office or deal with the motions of the reality TV of business. I was able to see it in real time around that time. It was
Wow.
so refreshing. I felt like I was in college. The other cool thing too is that us as executive assistants, and at that time, what I feel like is missing out now is that people don't have the in-person collaboration. I
Okay.
still talk to people from my Pilgrim family till this day. Some people from Pilgrim actually still give me jobs till this day. Um,
Networking.
and it and I honestly think the power of networking, like our era was like the last era. I think pandemic
Really?
and social media era have made it a new wave of networking,
Okay.
but the genuineness of actually caring for people as a person than the intentions of what you are using for that person, I think we were the last era because we were in the office, like we were dealing with people. I saw my first layoff for the first time of a whole
Mm.
department get let go.
I
And
remember hearing you
that's
say
a
that.
feeling that you don't get to see in person. Like, yeah, you get a Zoom call and you may see a Slack like, oh, this person's no longer here. But the feeling of
Yeah.
that is different when you see that layoff in person, when you see the PA have to escort all these people with boxes and you're just sitting there at your cubicle like, oh my God, like I can't say that. Like these are the
Yeah.
conversations or just the experiences that you don't get to see in the business of entertainment that most people will probably never get to experience again unless they're back in the office. But that experience, even just people getting promoted, they were first
Okay.
at one level and then they get promoted to be a part. Like I remember there was an exec assistant and they got promoted to be a part of the scripted team. And just seeing that evolution in real time, or just even the times we get to have at work where we get to have lunch in the birthday months and they celebrate
Yeah.
your month and you get to go back to the office and they celebrate you, or even like I miss sometimes checking in on my people. Like I would used to come walking down the office and be like, hey, what's going on, like hey, and everything. I really do miss that. um
Yeah.
and
Wow.
it made me a stronger person because it makes you actually talk to people. Like it makes you be like, these are just more than just my posters or my boss. Like these are people, and that's how I always came into the entertainment business. I never came into it like I want an Emmy. Like I came into it like I already know I'm the ish. I know I have a story to tell, and you wouldn't have hired me if you didn't want me to help you with your story. So either you're gonna take it or I'm gonna go
Exactly.
somewhere else. So and I had to grow into that, but I had that. But walking into that and growing into that in those different spaces or different challenges that you have to deal with in the office, it's an experience that honestly I'm so grateful that I started at the time that I did.
What more would you say to this new generation about networking? Because it's not your generation anymore. You got to grow and evolve.
Oh yeah. I mean, like I said, I got my job off of Craigslist. How I got my job, they literally looked at me and they were like, they didn't even care about the skills that I had of the requirements. They were like, you were a DJ? I was like, yeah, I did this. I was doing it right. Because I did a lot when I was in college. But again, the different extracurricular activities made me a topic of conversation and broke
Wow.
the ice. And so
Broke the
for
ice. Yep.
me, oh yeah. And so the biggest thing that I told people in entertainment, they make it so extra like, oh, I gotta do this, oh, I gotta do this. Girl, do you know how to work a Google Drive? Do you know how to work a sheet? Do you know how to take notes? Do you know how to deal with a calendar and somebody's schedule for the day? Do you know how to talk to people? Do you know how to be good energy? Do you know how to have a conversation? Do you know how to implement a project if they ask you? Did you do your work? Did you do your research about TV? Did you do research of your film and TV and work? If you check those boxes, then you get in. That's how you get in. Like it is not rocket science anymore. And especially with social media, I tell people the way I slide in DMs, I feel like I am a groupie the way I slide in DMs, but it's made me get opportunities that I honestly will say I wish that social media was a little bit more kicked off when I started in
Sure.
TV that I did. Because the fire that I had then with that entity at that,
With
I
that
probably would have been an
technology.
EP a little bit more faster. I'd have been an EP more faster.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how this
Yeah.
happened. Not that, I mean, not diminishing the show. I love this show. but I think it was a DM or a comment somewhere, something like that on
It
IG,
was.
something like that. And I was like, oh, I already follow Queens of Production following any of my progress. How cool is that? And just mutuals and things and just watching people win and whatnot. Yeah, I see what you're like that fire plus it's like the fire then plus the technology now,
Oh my
gangbusters.
gosh. Oh, like I wish that I had like, and that's the thing that I feel like the new generation, they have that fire, but some of them don't have the desire. And when they do have it, they don't have the skills or the gifts that gab to back it up just yet. And that's why I tell people still do those entry level jobs, still try to like build yourself up because it gives you the practice to get the gab. Because
Yeah.
if you go up there and then they be like, okay, like I always tell people all the time with networking, people who network, especially I've been in network places that I've been invited to, referred to, I paid into, all the things. The biggest thing that you go into is I'm gonna get out of there with a contact or a job. Those are the two things. Sometimes I get in there with a contact. Now I've gotten to the point where I don't I'm booked. I'm sorry. I am not
It's a good
available.
problem to have.
But I love to connect because I want to be able to pour into the knowledge that I have with more people because I have opportunities and resources that I want my people to have. So in order for me, like, talk to me.
Yeah, what
It's like I feel like the people, this new generation, they got the fire, but they just don't got the push. And it's because they don't have
wow.
the practice of being
Okay.
in these rooms and like I'm gonna go for it. Like I'll see. Like my mentor said it perfectly when we had our interview. Shout out to Taisha Corpus Win. Keep me booked and busy. She said the biggest note. She would be at panels, at networking events all the time, and 9 times out of 10, nobody comes up to her. And she gives the opportunity, like, "Hey, I will stay longer for people to ask me questions, talk to me." And most of the time, they will probably not talk to her
Wow.
because most of the time, and I think it's an overall consensus of it too, is that if you don't see Issa Rae or if you don't see these popular names, you're not talking. But that's because you're not really in Hollywood and TV. Because if you was really in Hollywood and TV, you would know
Hmm.
the little names, the names
Yeah.
that you don't see on the big credits, the ones that's very fast. Those are the ones that are still not only booked and busy, but they're evolving their credits. So they're going to
Yes.
eventually be that big name. But if you didn't
Hmm.
catch them at the little name, keep that same energy when it's the big name. You know what I'm saying? Because not everybody
Exactly.
can get to Issa.
No.
But I bet you somebody, I bet you can get connected to a writer, her writer's
Yep.
assistant from season 1 that probably has now become a writer of their own project.
I t
So that's where I think the newer generations don't really know how to,
yeah.
they know how to talk, but they don't know how to network.
No, I gotta jump in
Oh,
here. You oh no. Okay, never mind. No, I don't. Go ahead.
I was going to say, the last thing I will say is they do know how to collab. Like
Collab.
with their
Okay.
tribe and building them and coming in, like I think they do come in more as a full group and a full force than how we were back then. I think back then there was too many gatekeepers, which is the con. Like nobody
Yeah.
was really like helping each other out for real, like compared to now. I think now with how your podcast, with my collective, there's now like they're chipping away at the wall of being like, no, like in order for us to all evolve, we have to give the knowledge. We can't just evolve and not give the knowledge. I mean,
Gotta give it is you what Denzel say. I'm leaving here with something. Right? And
exactly.
you talking about I gotta jump in here. I'm a broken record, but I should say it again because you never know who's watching. I was blessed to be on Insecure season 5, and I experienced what you said. I had shout out to Kristen. I won't put me or she put the whole business out. But as we were wrapping, we as the show was wrapping, she was like, Josiah, what did you want to do again? Screenwriting was what I didn't know I was going to be doing podcasting and consulting and other things like that. And I was like, screenwriting. This
Yeah.
was about 3, 4 years ago at the time of this episode. And she was like, okay, you got your resume crispy, like send that to me. I was like, okay, I got you. Send it to her and everything for some type of position or something. It went to another candidate, but she was Issa's assistant at the time. She was Issa's assistant
Mm.
at the time. So I got to meet her. I got to meet, shout out to Ed Long, who has been a guest. Love you, bro, who's been on this episode, who was Prentice Penny's assistant. And so I got to
Nice.
befriend both of them during my time. on the show and just learn a few things here and there. Sometimes we'd sit down and talk. And it's to your point where Issa was saying, guys, everyone wants to get to me, or you want to get to Denzel, or you want to get to Ava, or you want to, they're too high. Not that you're beneath them, but they're running hot in the areas they need to be. And that's what assistants are for. That's what those guys are for. Like, talk to them. They know what Issa and Ava and people need. That's how you can get in to be of service to the next production. I even got to discuss and learn some things, and I hope others did too, on the episode from Jabrielle Henning Rayford, who was Issa Rae's assistant before Kristen. I got to say a quick hello to Issa, and Issa said, "You remind me of Jabrielle," or something along the lines of, "I think you and Jabrielle would have connected well." Needless to say, I did eventually get to connect to Jabrielle and was able to share some of her story. People work with her. People learned about working in Hollywood and freelancing. Like, oh, you can do both. Just here's a few gems from Jabrielle. All of that to say, I wasn't trying to make it about me, but I literally went through that. And that was just on Insecure. I went through it with other things as well, where it was like, I didn't bum rush any guys. She's saying don't bum rush nobody with your resume. I've heard of people doing that. It makes the person look bad who gave you an opportunity. I had a buddy that happened to her. She was like, "Yeah, I brought him on, and he was cringe, man. He was cringe." Don't do that. Become friends with the production assistants, with the executive assistants. With they have their fingers on the pulse of what the needs are.
And you know what? Fun fact. I will say, you know, I've worked with amazing people, like again, I'm from North Hollywood. So again, people would think that Britney Spears was walking down the street, and I would tell them many times through childhood, I do not know who these artists are. They just, people are people. But even going into, you know, working with people in Hollywood, like I was able to work when I did The Hike. I was season 1 as the story producer. I was able to work with Zoe Jackson, which, fun fact, Zoe Jackson is an OG in reality TV. She actually has done pretty much a lot of the competition. She does RuPaul's Drag Race for a long time as a producer's team. And I think on like a higher level, I think either co-EP or like supervising producer. But when I first got to, it's crazy because like now finishing the show, I was like, oh, I got to work with like Samuel Jackson's daughter. And I was like, oh, like, what? Like, but to see her in action, like, and in the moment, it's like one of those things where you are like, you just are appreciative of the craft. And so seeing her like, oh my gosh, just move and shake and like being able to understand story and being able to like do those things in the competition type of style, I was like, wow. And to be able to, once we were kind of getting close to rapping and stuff, like showing my work. Like I was just able to do the work. I was not over here asking for no autograph. I didn't ask over here about like, well, how's her dad? Like it literally was just like, you get to the point in Hollywood where it's just like people are people and you're just glad to work with them. But at the same time, you know that you have a mission to complete, which is the show. And so it's just like, you got to separate the two. And so I would say also for, you know, this new generation, they want a social media and record everything. I remember back in the day, you couldn't even have your phone. Most of the shows that I've done, I don't even have much recording.
Right.
Back then, because you could not have a camera. Like you would get in trouble now. Oh, selfie with the cat.
Especially on a Disney set.
It's just like, are you producing? Are you producing? Like, are
you
getting your beats done? Okay. So that's where it's just like the new generation is just like, if you're coming in, take your fandom out of it and really treat yourself as a student in the game. That will keep you evolved. That will keep you working. That will keep you in the business. That'll keep you in level of whatever you want to be. But you take that out, like that's where you'll be that's how I feel. And maybe that's just because being the opportunity of living in the lights, and it's just like, oh, these lights don't turn off. Like,
right.
people gonna take off that wig. I love when the person takes off the wig. Okay. When you're done with that interview and you still are able to have connections with your talent after when the show wraps is when you really know if you are a true producer.
True. That's how you know if you're a true producer. And you know, we just jumped in. Toni, you'll know, guys, because you're going to see the description. What are your titles and your giftings in the industry, Toni? And where did Queens of Production come from?
Whew, okay, so Queens of Production came through my journey. So, like I said, I was an executive assistant for Pilgrim. I was blessed to be able to be promoted out of the executive assistant role and wind up being associate producer for one of their shows, Bring It, for their last season. So they got
Nice.
me to go to Jackson, Mississippi for a couple months for that last season, being able to, learn about the dance culture, especially Majorette at the time, understanding the difference between Majorette and dance line, because there is a difference. Okay, there is a difference. Okay, Majorette is more of like the kids and like the high school and stuff like that try to do the dance, and then you want to get to the point of being on a collegiate level, which is dance line, the OG
Ah,
of HBCU culture dance. So learning the difference between the two and learning the two different cultures between the two, which was pretty awesome. And then implementing different dances, I was able to not only be the associate producer for the moms, but I wind up being a rival team producer. So I helped to scout, pitch, and find the teams that went up against the dancing dolls. And I had literally none of this would have happened if my EP, shout out to Megan Estrada, who I was her assistant. When they promoted me, they were like, either you got two roles. We can do post and you be online underground. I was like, I don't want to be in the cold. That's the one thing about inside the corporate, the cold.
not the
I want to
cold.
be outside. And I think that's the one thing about being a producer at the time. I was like, I want to experience traveling and being outside because they had money back then.
Yeah.
Oh, per diem was great. So Megan Estrada, she taught me story producing. The season 4, I remember I used to be at the desk, and every episode she'd be like, come to my office. And every episode when I finish, I go in the office and she tell me the breakdown of how they do the competitions, how they find the team, how they're going to develop the story from A, B, and C, how which editor does good with this type of story, with this type of tone and this type of language. Like she really helped to break down for me the difference between understanding stories from field to post. And I will honestly say that gave me the superpower that I was able to get on and be comfortable being out as associate producer for those couple months. When I finished, of course, you have the woes of when is my next job. So, of course, I was trying to find through, of course, back then, Facebook groups, Craigslist, Indeed, word of mouth, referrals. We didn't have much of social media at the time. So, again, like really leaning on to
Yeah,
your connections to get you the next thing.
for
And
sure.
so from there, I really kind of blossomed a lot into associate producing a lot for competition shows, docu-style content
Okay.
for Lifetime, because I wound up doing My Killer Body with Kay Michelle. So I got to do the black market of BBLs, which, oh my gosh,
Whoa.
that was interesting. But a cool
Um,
thing was we were able to premiere the same night as Janet Jackson's documentary, which was the top premiere of like that entire Lifetime franchise, which was pretty cool. I worked with Lifetime a lot. I worked with BET on The Next Big Thing. That's how I was able to work with a lot of my inspiration of executive producers like Vivian Payton, Ricky Hughes, Holly Carter, Keisha Brickhouse, even down to, when I worked in between stuff and got to meet my mentor, Aisha Corpus Wynn. I just got to meet a lot of Black women EPs and showrunners and people who handled story and handled talent in a beautiful way at an executive C-suite level that I honestly feel like a lot of people will not have that experience again because of DEI and all these other entities and people getting laid off, especially Black women. But to have that in the specialty and especially in situations where I feel like when it comes to people of color or just Black stories or Black shows, you really have to have somebody that's Black at the showrunner EP level. It just ain't gonna make no sense. I know that I know they be trying, but I've just seen time and time and time again that it just they don't get it. They
yeah.
don't get it. But when you have a Black woman or a Black person or just a person of you have our people at the forefront, the way that the story gets executed and taken care of from beginning to end, it's just when it's done right, it's such a beautiful thing to see and a beautiful experience to have, being on a show that you're like, I actually had a good experience compared to another show that just makes you just don't even want to think about the show anymore.
Yeah.
It's a difference. And so I was able to experience it firsthand and get to learn how to do story. And so from there, during the pandemic, I was down, didn't wasn't traveling that much. I was at
Right.
that point an associate producer, and I was trying to figure it out like everybody else. And by 2020, I was like, okay, what am I doing? I need to check in on my people. And so I just did a Zoom call. Did a Zoom call and a bunch of my mentors to people. I was like, hey, girl, I'm doing a Zoom call. And when I kid you not, I had over 30 to 40 different queens and different levels, from EP level to just getting out of film school to
Amazing.
international to US. And we all were just like, we're tired. we
Right.
were talking about race. We were talking about what is going on, how are we supported, how can we support each other. And from there, I was like, well, let me kick something off. I think this, I was like, I think that we need to have something, or just something where I could be able to, because at the same time, I was learning so much about the industry in a very fast pace, and I felt like I wanted to give so much. And at that same time, I feel like a lot of people were treating me like if I was considered green, which green in the industry, what you already know, you don't know no information. You just fresh
Yeah, yeah.
out the gate, you don't got much to give.
You a
And I
baby.
hate that word. I hate that word because I feel like when some people call you green, it's because they don't know the information that you don't know. And I don't know if it's jealousy or hate, but don't be hating on me, okay? And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to create Queens of Production, because if I can't give this information out the way that through panels, or, through, partnerships, or through people, like, I just wanted to be able to speak to seeing that there was a need. And I was like, you know what? Let me kick this off. And so 2020, I kicked off Queens of Production. And at first was just a collective. I was just like, it was just a space for me to give the information and giving what's going on in the industry. And for now, the last 5 years, it has now blossomed into not only a collective, but a huge hub where I've been able to educate, elevate, and advocate for so many people that felt like their roles weren't appreciated, roles weren't needed, projects that they probably did that were falling by the wayside. I was like, nah, I feel like there's a platform that, I like your stuff on top of the stuff I'm interested in. And I think there's people that are interested and want to know what really is going on with Hollywood. And I think for the last 5 years, it really has opened up a lot of people's eyes, because I was telling the real. I was telling what's going on during the pandemic. I was telling what was going on in the real during them strikes, and how to prepare yourselves for the strikes, whether it being going to places to support the cause, or finding information or jobs or resources or skills that you can be able to pivot into. And so now we've blossomed into not only TV and film, but social media. And so now we are able to educate and advocate for those that are in just straight up content production, or just overall wanting to know any pocket of production, whether you want to get into Hollywood or you want to just help a local, community, which LA has now really turned into, which I was going to add into. LA has now kind of really blossomed more into live events, and more of local community based productions. And so now being
Nice.
able to show those resources and show other programs and other businesses that are in these spaces. Because while we were in Hollywood, people were like, "Are you working?" And honestly, I will say no shade. The whole time during the pandemic and everything, I was really blessed to be saying I was pretty much busy, or
Excellent.
like
That's great.
either between QOP or with other things. But that was because I was just, again, I'm always a student in the game, and I'm wondering what's next. I'm not sitting, and I just felt like a lot of my colleagues, when it was the pandemic, they were sitting. The strikes, they were sitting. And I was just like, as more and more they were sitting on the other side, I'm like, no, I'm seeing more stuff happening over here. Let's tap over here. And
Yeah.
thankfully, I was able to let QOP be the voice, because now I see so many people doing the same, like so many new eras of people doing the same thing, and we just never talk. And like you said, with
Wow.
social media, it just connected us, and being like, oh, Hollywood ain't just the only way to storytell anymore. I can
Tell them.
storytell and promote someone's candle business. I can storytell and produce someone's record label. I can support and story and produce a person's plant business. And I can do the same thing. It may not be the Hollywood checks that we were used to. And that's
Yeah.
the reality that a lot of us, or a reason why a lot of us didn't pivot, is because a lot of us, we're going to have to either go back to the basics, or we're going to have to learn something new. And it's scary for people, especially people who were comfortable with the Hollywood checks, comfortable with the per diem, comfortable with getting paid. When I was doing
That
Brady, they was
model.
paying for the cars, the apartment, us flying there, us per diem, paying for the Starbucks, paying for the meals. All that started to shrink as we started to get to the pandemic. And a lot of people were still like, okay, I'm going to wait because the unions, they felt the unions were going to protect. And they felt like the systems, the old systems of Hollywood were going to protect. But as you see, Netflix is about to buy Warner Brothers. The
Mm-hmm.
waves of Hollywood is not old anymore, and we have to change. And sometimes change is scary. It's
Yeah.
not good. And sometimes it's because they're putting in the whole AI,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
laying off all the things, but that sometimes you have to break the noise and be like, okay,
Yeah.
how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to still survive? And I know there was even a point, when it was the double strikes, when I was kind of working, my coworkers were talking to each other like, did you tell anybody that you're working? Did you tell anybody? I'm like, I'm not telling anybody I'm working. Like, it was like Scarlet's Red if you was working at the time because it was, but it's like, we're almost at that time again. And look at the position that we're at now. Like a lot of my friends are not even covered with their medical insurances or not even
Mm.
covered because they didn't make the certain hours to be eligible still for. And then you just saw that the Academy just took away the screeners, like some of the screeners, like
Mm.
in-person events. So they're dialing back a little bit. And so it's
Wow.
just like, okay, well, there's a new sheriff in town. I'm not waiting to see who the sheriff is.
No,
I want to be able to prepare myself. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of
not
like
waiting.
an earthquake or, even the fires. We were never prepared for that, but we have to deal with the aftermath. It's kind of what Hollywood is kind of dealing with us right now. It's like we're dealing with the aftermath of people's decisions of these mergers and all these things, but they're not
Mm.
helping us to prepare to stay employed. So it's kind of one of those situations where it's like, what do you do? Do you
Yeah.
wait for Hollywood or do you let Hollywood ruin you?
I wouldn't wait. I would, I know I'm not there. I'm not saying that I have the full answer or anything, but I'm definitely inspired by what you've been saying of your times with Pilgrim, learning how to network, being a people person, and just how that served you in the form of other jobs, queens of production. Because I mean, none of this matters if you don't. I think I was saying to someone else. It's people anyway. You're making these movies and these music videos and these documentaries. People got to watch them anyway. It's
They took
people.
the fun out of doing a show. I remember back in the day, they used to give you swag at the end. They don't even give you swag anymore.
What?
Okay? They just kick you out the door. Once you rap, like, out, like, out of there, And so, well,
Like peace
thankfully, I think
out.
the last swag I got was the hype. And I was able to get some
Okay.
shoes. I was able to get a t-shirt. They made a hype t-shirt for everybody. I think I got a Crenshaw sweater. Shout out to Ricky Hughes, like who always holds it down. Every show that I'm on with Ricky Hughes and Holly, they gonna make sure that you take care of, okay? But like you said, like the
Yeah.
connections, like genuine connections. I honestly will say Legendary was another one. Shout out to Lamont, Black Man, who got me in. He referred my name and got me into that show. In season 2, it was the first time I was able to. We had a meeting, and our post EP every day would ask us, "Are you okay? Are y'all all right?" And I was like, "What you mean? Like, is there an emergency? Like, is there a meeting? Like, what's going on? Like, because you always got to be on high alert when it comes to Hollywood and these meetings and stuff like that." And he was
Yeah.
like, "No, like mentally, are y'all okay?" Because like, and even down to my producer, shout out to Parker Jones, who would do the 4 agreements. We would do the 4 agreements
Hmm.
every day before we would start any type of producing. We need to get our mind right. Okay, those are great producers, because again, the care of your people, the care of your people's mental, like these shows be insane. But again, those connections bring opportunities because when I was such a dope person on set, I remember on Legendary, they told us, they were like, okay, anybody that's interested in post, we have an opportunity. And so I never knew nothing about, I knew post, but I never got my hands on admin. Okay. And so pandemic, which I told a lot of people, if you did not get the chance to learn your skill in the pandemic, you were sleeping. Okay? Because
Right.
most of the stuff, most of the opportunities were either free or remote. And so you didn't have the like backings of other people. You can just learn on your own pace. And so once he had that opportunity, I literally jumped for it. I remember one time he just saw me with talent all the time, and I always would handle interviews. The one thing I would say, if you are a good producer, be strong in your interviews and really be nice to talent. Like really understand talent from the back end. Like not talent
Okay.
where it's like, oh hey, like talent where they know your name. Okay, like I remember there'll be shows where my talent would not move if I didn't like I wasn't on set. I remember when I was
We're
on
zoning.
Legendary and the House of Balenciaga, shout out to Shannon. Shannon Balenciaga would do her own thing. And they would be like, Toni, like, get her! And yo, but it's because that comfortability. Like, I know how to get story, but the one thing about sometimes producing that I always hated is that sometimes some producers, there will be producers that are bomb, like can get story organically, like through connection. And then there'll be some producers will they'll try to pretend to like the talent to get the story, and then once they
Oh,
rap, they act like the talent just did not exist.
yeah.
Now, there's some talent where they are a little, you got to separate, okay? But there is talent where you don't got to do that. Like they, come on now. And those are the producers I feel like they don't last that long, and I see it in the cut because when I was able to transition into post production and see the interviews and see the raw interviews, I remember I saw a raw interview of a producer for interviews. I could not use none of the cut because literally the whole time he kept telling the talent that she was beautiful, and he kept like doing like these like um warm up games. I'm like, what is
Hmm?
where's the question? Do you have the question? What is going on? You're running the
Right.
tape very dry, okay? And so for me, even from my journey into pivoting in different roles of producing, which I tell a lot of people, there is different types of producers. There's more than one role. So if you are into talent, there's talent producing, there's a talent team. If you love story, they get into, story producing, the post, all that stuff. If you are into post production, bridging the gap, there's post producer, your co-EP for post, all the things. If you're into segment, finding locations, finding different areas for us to set up the scene, we have a segment producer. Like there's different pockets of producer. So when you want to get into it, again, do your research on what umbrella that you want to get into. Also, there's reality TV, there's syndication, there is live, there is award shows.
Yep.
There's all different genres of producing. So when you also want to get into producing, there's other ways. I love competition. I love documentary, docu-style. That's kind of where I've been pivoting over and been my jam. I hate crime. Don't ask me. I don't want to be in it. I don't like doing crime shows. I like watching them, like investigation. Of
Sure.
course that's the thing. I love watching. I hate doing them because I just don't like watching because for post production we see the real before it's blurred, and so I don't.
Ah,
Mm-mm.
sure. Yeah. Know your limits.
Medical shows,
Know where you
know
do
your
best.
limit,
Yeah, yeah.
know where you do best. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
for me, I feel like I was able to really pivot so much. And so for me, I consider myself the queen of story because I've pivoted so much. I've done syndication, I've done competition, I've done docu-style. I'm now currently a research analyst for an archival production company. As
Nice,
well
nice.
as on the other side, I'm a social media producer and editor and strategist for independent clients, for local to, Hollywood clientele. But those are the two types of producing that I have pivoted over into. And again, it has evolved. Archival producer has never been around forever. It just came around the pandemic because there was a rise of documentaries, and so
Wow.
people was
I didn't
not
know that.
shooting. So documentaries were on the rise because it's so easy to shoot.
Yeah.
Now it's
That makes sense.
expensive because they want to tell the expensive stories,
Oh,
but it's there.
okay.
So it's like
Yeah.
every time there's a new evolution. Like when I came in, it was reality TV. Now it's vertical series, even though way
Oh,
back then it
yeah.
was TV and all that stuff was around back then. But now the gold rush is vertical series, and everybody wants to do a micro dramas and stuff. And social media is now, and YouTube is our content now, and it's gonna keep evolving. And so it's just like again, my skill sets have pivoted over in these new evolutions of storytelling. So I never had to worry about Hollywood. Hollywood was just my foundation and my starting point of storytelling, but it's not going to be my ending.
Wow. So sorry, you said so very much. It was just like it's like that scene in The Hobbit when it's just a
It's like a
wave of
four.
gold coins
Just
and
it's
wisdom just
great.
washed
Just
over me.
knowledge.
You know, just the knowledge. So you said a lot about pivoting. You said a lot about
Yes.
networking and mentorship. How do you funnel all of this into Queens of Production? And is Queens of Production just for if you want to be a producer?
So no. So Queens of Production is overall a resource hub. And so honestly, I have made it to where I post anything and everything that's going on in the industry, whether it's
That's
stuff I
right. Yeah.
like. Definitely a lot of stuff that's local in LA, the stuff that's going on. Of course, like I said, the NBA All-Star Weekend was happening. So any resources that I was seeing that was local that they had here, or opportunities that they had here. Because what I'm starting to notice is social media is starting to become the postings for jobs or postings for opportunities,
Yeah.
which is different from how I was back then. Back then, it was Indeed, Craigslist, Facebook groups, or a hope and a dream. So now you have social media to be able to be
Yeah.
your plug of all the things. And so now I just kind of be that like tunnel in that channel to really post a lot of stuff, advocating for people's projects and different things that I see online, which kind of gets me connected with people. I also have my own kickoff with our RG Live Talk series where I interview people in different spaces outside of
Yep.
my storytelling, which has been amazing to learn different styles from people who are EPs for shows to people that, produce designing for activations. So it's like, so many different to costume designers, so it's different ways of different roles and stuff that I honestly is not just as a producer. Like you get to see a little bit of what I do through what I post in productions. This year, I'll be opening up a little bit more now that we have moved over into our YouTube channel. So this year, we now have also blossomed into our content. So not only we will be able to give out resources, but we are going to be doing our own content. So that's why all the IG Live Talk series has moved over to the YouTube channel. But any and everything that it comes to entertainment, I post it on the channel. Anything that I feel, and also the information. I was very surprised that a lot of people didn't know when I posted about the Netflix like connection, because people were like, "Why is Netflix trying to buy Warner Brothers and why wouldn't Paramount?" And it's just like you got to understand that Netflix has a music connection. I think one of the co-founders is married to his wife is Clarence Avant, who's the OG of
That's right.
music. And so they were able to
Rest in
understand
peace.
that
Yeah.
the word IP, I think the word this year has been around is IP and ownership and being able to own your own.
Yeah.
But we have to understand the reality is that a lot of people own what we think is our own.
Yeah.
Like they already own it. It's already signed, still delivered, and they have the USPTO. So understanding that IP and who really owns the IP, and I think because of the fact that I came in as an executive assistant in legal, I was looking at that paperwork. The cool thing, honestly, if I wasn't a producer, I would have been a paralegal because I was looking
Okay.
at people's like deals. I remember back in the day when Being Mary Jane on BET and that whole Gabrielle Union
Yeah.
tobacco that happened. I saw the legal paperwork. That would be my hobby.
Wow.
I would used to like look at some of the like legal paperwork for entertainment and networks and things like that and see the legal language and all that stuff. So all that stuff, I'm not surprised because Netflix, it was a silent killer. Okay.
Mm.
They understood how to
Wow.
take an IP and just not only put it in a theater, they made it an experience. They
Yeah.
have the Netflix is a Joke festival. I was like, ooh, they taking over Hollywood. Like they literally have the billboards. They have collaboration with Funko. And they were able to get with their K-pop Demon Hunter
Yeah. I heard
show.
about that. Yeah.
They got a Grammy nomination, Grammy
Bruh.
nomination. They have now been able to take their shows and get Grammy nominations and music deals.
That's right.
Do
Y'all.
you really think that we need it? Like, just imagine if Netflix is that much of a powerhouse. Do you really even like? Do you even think we'll need a union in the next couple of years?
Ooh.
That's the
That's a
bigger
good,
question.
that's
And
a
then that's
huge
when it's
question.
the bigger thing of it, and that's always been my thing. I've had the experience of being in opportunities that were union and non-union. And there's some people, like, I honestly will say there is a new generation or new era that is not going the union way.
No
And
way.
unfortunately, they're not. They're not. Like, I remember I went to a networking event, and this guy, I guess he worked with Mr. Beast Games as their
Okay.
like promo for all their Super Bowl promo stuff. And he said straight up in the panel, he was like, I would rather work with someone that is new, like film student or just came out the box than someone working in Hollywood in the union. Again,
Wow. And why did he feel this way?
it's the experience, and I think
Okay.
because
Okay.
it's a weird thing because, and this is just my honest opinion, Hollywood does have its faults. But there is a good thing of being in Hollywood is that you get the opportunities and things like that. But it's kind of one of them closed behind closed doors where there has been some times where they have mistreated our community. I mean, you see the
Yeah.
DEI,
Yo,
like
yeah.
they was
D
like,
yeah.
oh, for George Floyd, all these stories about George Floyd,
Right.
even shows were pushing, trying to get George Floyd in there, which it did. Some did work and some didn't. But then once that died down, you see how they're treating. You see how Issa Rae just did an interview talking about she's frustrated at this era of where we are in Hollywood because they don't even want black projects, which is weird because I'm seeing green light projects left and right. So
Okay.
it's a weird time of like, do they want diversity? Do they want our projects? Do they want our projects and just not want us to work them?
Come on.
Do you know what I'm saying? So it's just like one of them things. It's like I ain't got time to prepare for all that. I ain't got time to be going all these questions. But I feel like we've been bing bonging since 2020.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember I was in a meeting and they were just giving like a this is how you hire diversity. We are still in that pocket.
Bruh.
So it's like, do I have time to really keep explaining to you how to hire me, or I'm just gonna get my bag myself?
I mean, I thought in this town, time was money.
I mean,
But they want
isn't
you to
that
take the
what
time to
freelance
explain.
is?
You said, isn't that what
That's
freelance
what
is? Right.
freelance is.
Right.
Freelance,
Exactly.
freelance ain't just Hollywood. Freelance is utilized everywhere. So if I can learn how to get the bag through Hollywood, I could definitely learn
Yeah,
how to
yeah.
get the bag through a local client
Yeah,
or a
yeah.
local business or a local entity because these brands are now giving money. Chick-fil-A
Yeah.
has a production company. You know, how can I get into that?
Whoa.
Those are those questions.
I did hear
Crocs
about that.
just dropped a micro drama.
You said Crocs?
With collaborate, Crocs just dropped a micro drama, I think, with collaboration with the CAA. So while we're over here waiting on Hollywood, these people are having
Yo.
conversations.
Yo.
So I want to be in these conversations or research on what are they doing
Yeah.
and what does that mean for the future
The landscape
and
is changing.
how
Yeah,
exactly,
it's shifting.
because it's been shifting.
Been
It's
shift.
been shifting since I was here. It's just we gotta. It's not of being in the hamster wheel of the forever changing of creativity, but understanding that things will change. Like back
Yes.
then, they probably. I I remember I went to a conference and they said still to this day, literally last year, and this guy said in his mouth, he was like, "Reality TV ruined TV." And I'm sitting there like, dang, he don't even know that I came here through reality TV. Hey, y'all. So it's just like there's people that are still going to be hating on the change. It's just,
Yeah.
are you going to be the hater or are you going to be the change? You got to pick a side.
This is going to sound weird, but it reminds me of that book and that movie, No Country for Old Men. It might sound really weird, but it
Yes.
was just the idea of like it's a crime movie, and it was just all these weird crimes and the cartel and all, and old law enforcement and just didn't know how to deal with it. That's the basic
Yeah.
premise, and it's like everything moved on, new
Yeah.
technology, new products, new weird stuff in the underground, and you don't know how to keep up. And it's like if you don't know, if you're not creative at heart, isn't that funny? That's really what we're talking about, right? We talk about film production, we talk about producing, we talk about storytelling.
Right.
If
Yeah.
you a lot of the best guests I've had say this in one way or another, and I do it to the best of my ability to just keep up with the trends or the stories about stories happening in the industry, both in Hollywood, in the quote unquote independent space. Like I said, you said Chick-fil-A and all these brands, everyone got their own brands, people putting out vertical stories and things and like
And not even just, even take it further. Celebrities are now becoming producers and directors and having their own pockets. So it's just like things are moving very, very, very quickly because they're seeing, okay, I'm not getting these opportunities. How can I be able to still keep creating? Which is the biggest thing. We want to keep creating, but it's just like, okay, we're not getting the support with the big fish. Now we're
who's
gonna,
available.
now I think this year I've seen a boom of people just utilizing social media
Yep.
to push their creative narrative.
Because and they're being findable. That's what I've been learning more about business, especially with social media. It's like be out there so people can find you. Be a lot of people don't like it, but Denzel's like, hey, be consistent. Everyone's like,
Yeah,
there's got to be other. No, there's more advice, but it's like you got to start with something and keep going. Otherwise, you don't know if you're going to get good at it or not. Like everybody wants to be
yeah,
perfect. And I think some of that might be the pressure, maybe, and we're kind of misconstruing and we're kind of buckling under the pressures of different things that we want to achieve. But your whole testimony has just been, reality TV, Pilgrim, mentorship, and you didn't know what was coming either, any more than I did.
yeah,
But you utilized what you saw around you, who was around you, your what's burning in your heart to be a storyteller, not just chasing fame and one little thing and one little box. And I think it seems like that's what people need to be doing because who knows what it's going to look like in 5 years, 10 years. Like you said, now
yeah.
talent is becoming producers. They're getting into producing. It's like everything's changing. But if you thought it was going to
And I will
stay
say
that way, you're SOL.
you're going to be behind. And I will say even my wake up call when I really was like, oh, I need to understand the power of the pivot is when I was on set for a show and I saw how many supervising producers that we had, and I was like, damn, why we got like six supervising producers for this one show? And the biggest thing in Hollywood is that you want to chase, like you want to get to the role that you want to get to, the highest role that you want to get to. Which for producer, for me, I was interested in the story. You want to get at least to co-EP, EP level. And so when I was on set, and usually when you're on set, you get that easy chance to like connect and be able to move up. But I realized on one show when I saw that many, I was like, hey, I'm gonna have to fight to get through eight, six, well, eight in total, well, 10 in total, because we got the EPs and all that stuff with all they notes. But I'm gonna have to fight through six supervisors.
Wow.
I'm like, I gotta get off of set immediately. And then what I realized, I was like, my time. I realized that I would spend so much of my time creating all the things on set, and I'd be there from like 5 a.m. call time until maybe 10.
Oh
And I'm like,
man.
oh my God, like this is. And when I was in the pandemic, it spoiled me when I got the opportunity to be in post production. I was like, oh, I get to cut and all this stuff and just watch the footage and get to tell my own time and don't have to worry about working on Saturday and a Sunday. Oh, so when I went back on set, I was like, this is not my life
Not no
anymore.
more.
And at first, and it's like you grow up in a sense. So I was like, okay, longevity wise, how am I going to be able to sustain? And I'm like, it's not going to be set life because at that time was COVID. So it's like either you was able to get all them boosters to get in or you was going to be left behind. And so I was just like, you know what? This may be my chance to learn a new skill. And I was able to learn Avid through a show. And from there, I just learned Avid through a show. I didn't have Avid skills before then.
Wow.
I literally put that, I literally asked, you know how to do a string out? I said yes. And that's the biggest thing that you need to know in Hollywood. If they ask you a question, just say yes. Because you'll learn along the way. And I've been so successful at being in post production since then. But I think learning story on set or just being so strong in story, I was able to maneuver in it so easily in post production. Because what I learned in post production is they don't like to do too much. And so if you give them as much information as you can, it'll be so beautiful for your editor. And so I was that type of street person that my bins will look so colorful and beautiful. You don't even have to worry about it. All you got to do is just splash a little pizzazz, and that was it. And again, being a people person. Because post production, they're really like, like robotic, like this is
Yeah.
assembly line, this is what we're doing. So you have somebody with good
And it
experience in the meeting,
works. So
they're
I
like,
get it.
oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful being like the broken record in a show that's like has like a jam because they're just like, oh my god, this girl's nice. Oh my gosh, like it's just interesting being in those dynamics in the post production side. It's great, and because I had the experience on a C-suite level, I already know how to check people at the door. Yeah, already. So
Nice.
so being able to power the pivot and understanding, oh my gosh, it's going to take me so long to even get to the point of a supervisor producer because most of those roles, unfortunately, is a friend of a friend or showrunner. So even if you try to fight for it, you're more than likely it's going to take you a long time to be able to get the position that you need. Or you could just, maneuver around and find a role that is strong in all your skill sets, which archival producing for me has been beautiful. Archival producing has been both my legal side, which you
Okay.
understand,
Yeah.
archival production and understanding how to fair use clearance, right? Finding the archives and the originators and understanding those logistics, and then still producing and being like, oh, like this archive may tell that story, or you may want to find something that's in your budget, So being able to still be a producer and I don't have to be on set. I'm remote. My life has been remote since then. I've been able to control my time, which has been a huge thing for me because I know that a lot of people still have to take those travel jobs, to get by, even though they want to, stay with their family and things like that. Like they still have to be a travel producer. I don't have to worry about that anymore because I was able to control my narrative and what production role that I wanted to be in. And some of them were saying no to some shows. I remember a lot of times I used to sacrifice and be like, I love this show, I love this project, but is it gonna be with me for the long run? No. And so sometimes I
Okay.
did have to sacrifice at times.
Wow. Uh, Toni, this has been a lot. Um, we gotta we gotta go. I don't want to go, but we gotta go. We at time. Guys, so you need to
Actually,
again.
I could do one more question if you want
You can
to. I
do,
told you I could stay for a little
we can do
15. So
one
I got
more.
like one or two questions. We can.
Um, what marching orders would you give to aspiring filmmakers in the modern day, right now? Because this is about storytelling and
Yeah.
this is about people.
Yeah. I would say for our newer generation of storytellers is one, understand the dealings that you're gonna be having to mess with the industry right now. So find a state or find an area that you feel like you will thrive in. Some people are going back home to the East Coast. I know some people have moved to Chicago. I know some people have come to California still because they are interested in the live events. And, we still have the Olympics coming up. World Cup is coming up this year. So we do have some opportunities that some people can be able to come through still. And, again, we have sports and all the things. So if you're still interested in those, again, find those pockets. Use social media as your guide. I kid you not, I wish that I had social media or just Instagram and LinkedIn when I had
Seriously.
back in the day, because the way that I've just, even my LinkedIn, I've really revamped and refreshed, and I've gotten opportunities and clients through there and slid through DMs or just beefed it up enough to where I didn't just let the social media just kind of sit there. And so I tell people, don't be afraid, but make sure you have your stuff together. So don't be afraid. Like I tell people all the time, unfortunately, you will have to do positions that you may not get paid physically. You may not get the coin.
It's
But I tell
true.
people all the time, get jobs that you could still do as a credit.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I may not get paid, so that means you may not get all of me. This is where the negotiations come into play, which people don't negotiate as much. And that was even me too. Like I was afraid to negotiate, but now that I know my worth and I know the skills and also my bandwidth and time too, I ain't got time. So you have to negotiate because people will play you.
Yes.
So negotiate your time and negotiate your rate and get a credit. I've literally there was projects. I saw a project that was on Facebook group and people were thrashing it down and everything, like, oh, like it's not paid and everything. And the guy had said straight up, like, this is not paid, but I can give you like I can give you credit. And so I was like, I'll take it. It was an archival producer
Yes.
role. And so I negotiated my time. I was like, okay, well, I know that you can't pay me. I'll give you 1 day. I'll give you some just notes on how to prep your archives. I'll do a little sample. I won't go too much. I'll do 1 page sample of how you can organize it through different templates. I said you can pick 1 to 2 templates out of my foundational skills. That's what I always say too as a producer. Keep templates because everybody gonna need to know how to do a hot sheet. Everybody gonna need to know what a beat sheet looks like, how to break down your talent. So I know you can't take all the stuff from a show,
Sure.
but if you are making the hot sheet or you are making the foundationals of these templates, have one for your own so that when you do start to have clients, and what I say too is you can become a client consultant yourself. You have the skills enough to where you can help some of these proof of concept projects. And so going back to,
So yeah, when I wind up doing this consultation for him, 1 day, 1 to 2 hours, when I kid you not, I want to say I helped him out with this 2 years ago. It wind up being for an artist. And then he funded it himself. So then he wound up promoting it and everything. He did it at 2 theaters, one in Chicago, one in Atlanta. And then the project wound up being on Tubi. So 2 years later, he hit me and was like, hey, what is your name? Like he screen grabbed the credit and he was like, I want to put your name on the credits. Does this look right? And I was like, oh, wow, like what?
Right.
So a project that people rejected off of Facebook group and off of social media, I took it, negotiated my rate to be a credit, because also to a credit is a coin too as well. And I wound up getting a Tubi credit 2 years later, but that's because I cared about the project. I cared about the person as a person, and I still am in touch with him till this day. And for him to give me that honor, it was like, wow, you gave me my first Tubi credit, and I didn't even have to ask for it. So it was just like sometimes, like I say, like with people, you got to just negotiate, because sometimes that proof of concept will turn into a distribution. You just don't know where it's going to go. But if you care about your craft and you care about the projects and you care about the business of entertainment, you'll understand that sometimes some of them projects will turn into gold. And so I tell my mentees all the time, which we do have a mentee program with our Queen of Story mentorship. I tell them all the time, sometimes you got to do those free projects, but you can negotiate how you spend your time on that free project. And sometimes those free projects 9 times out of 10 will give you a new connection or will give you a credit that you can put on your IMDb or your LinkedIn higher than somebody else that was going to sit there and not take the opportunity. And now you have a new skill role, a new contact, a new everything. And especially those that want to get into the film festival spaces, and like now more people are doing their own projects. Of course, you're going to want to do more projects that are doing proof of concepts. It's just you have to negotiate. If it's not a coin, a credit. Not a coin, a credit. Get your credit.
Oh my gosh. So y'all gotta, man, y'all need to listen to Toni P. Y'all need to or negotiate. Y'all need to come to Africa. My mom was telling me, some of y'all know, my family came over here, man. We be in these markets, man. It's like, is no fixed prices, man, over here in Zanzibar and in these countries, man. It's like you start haggling, you start going, Yvonne Orji tried to tell y'all too, over there in Nigeria, where like you gotta translate that and get into that people, channel that spirit, even if you're introverted. I get you. You're like, well, but I ain't like Toni P. I'm introvert. You know what? That's okay. I remember when I was in college, I got so much encouragement from friends because I'm pretty, I try to come out of myself when it's time to be doing what we doing here and stuff like that, right? Maybe some people don't know that I'm pretty introverted, but it's like they were like, no, just it's not about shoving your business card all up in the people's faces and stalking people at the festival. And that's not what it's about. It's everything you were saying earlier about being yourself, caring about the person. Don't get overwhelmed. You're not here to be best friends with everyone. Sometimes You're going to lose someone's number. You're going to fall out of contact with a few. It's okay. You might not gel as well with certain people. It's all right. Cling to the people that you gel and vibe with the most. Let your personality come out. I've talked about this. I don't think did a job come out of it? A job didn't come out of it, but something as simple as me wearing better.
You don't always think that a job is going to come out of it. Sometimes they may just put your name in the room, and that's more than enough. And that's where I think that, like, for me, and I think a big note that I will take away for this new generation, be kind to people and stop having expectations on people when you do meet them. When you meet them, just come in cold turkey.
Yeah.
Come in cold turkey, because you wouldn't want that to be for somebody for you. Like, you coming in and you want to come in as a genuine person, and then somebody else like automatically has intentions. Like, don't automatically have intentions of expectations. Just go in and just really vibe with the person. And I bet you not that's going to come out of like something, a collaboration, a job, maybe. But if not, just let your genuineness be enough to where they can maybe put your name in the room, or even put your name in the room. That's way more than enough. Because for me, I think that really made me see how much QOP has made an impact, because my genuineness of reposting people's stuff, reposting people's projects, or just genuinely like supporting people or giving the knowledge has put QOP in many rooms that people were like, oh my gosh, like, y'all are just a social media platform. And people who have like, not even because it is LLC, but people who have like big, huge Netflix, big partnerships. And I was able to be in the room, like, because we have a fellowship with Staff Me Up. And they were the first to have a fellowship with us and be like, I see you, we see what you're doing. And fast forward, they've given us opportunities to go to networking events like Netflix, and seeing Queens of Production in the same brackets of Who You Knows and the Handy Foundations and stuff. I'm like, wow. This was just a Zoom call 2020. And now it's become a hub where people know QOP, whether I'm in the room or not, through people who follow QOP and use those skill sets to be their own producers now, or be in these different fellowships and programs. And it's so proud to be like, for them to come back and be like, oh my gosh, I just went in and they were like, oh, I know QOP. Like, or people will slide in my DM and be like, I just heard somebody say QOP. And I'm like, I follow that girl. So it's kind of like that V for Vendetta for me, where in the sense of like, it was cool.
Everybody's masked
to not know my face. And so now it's like, I gotta show my face a little bit. Or just now when they know, it's even more cooler when they're like, oh, she not only has a face, but she's in the business too, and she gets it. And I've done the below the line experience, and I'm in this transition of going from below to above. And a lot of people don't get to see that. They just get to see Issa. They don't see that when she was on
Awkward Black Girl,
YouTube, and getting her deal with Pharrell. We didn't get to see the meeting with her getting the deal with Pharrell.
Good point.
A lot of people won't have that experience, but I think with me, I've been able to kind of flip that and be like, I see you because I'm in it too, y'all. So I get it. I'm not faking the funk like everybody else. Like, I'm really in it. I didn't just change into it. Like, I've really been in the growth with all y'all. And I'm so proud of what QOP has been able to do, and even do moving forward now that we're going to be able to do our own content. So I'm not waiting on nobody.
That's awesome. Goodness. You know what? What are you excited about for QOP for 2026? Anything you're able to reveal?
So 2026, we are in the process of, like I said, IG Live Talks are now officially moving over there. So that particular series is going to be only on there.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. So we have some interviews that's going to be coming up between this month or next month. So be on the lookout for that. I actually have like a mini series that I am in the works of doing with one of my mentees. So that's in the process of that. And like I said, we are just really just trying to have more collaborations. Last year, we had our first like international collaboration with BWhip. Shout out to my girl in the UK, Jasmine, Black Women in Post-Production. We did our first UK-US masterclass. So we're trying to bring that back again, like another masterclass set. And again, I want to try to really not only blossom continuing pouring the knowledge of film and TV, but now that I've gotten into social media as now a social media producer, editor, and strategist, being able to pour that knowledge and how you can be able to get in those pockets with the collaborations and people that I've been connected to in that world. And in that world has just been so crazy because it's just like there's so much talent, but they need producers, they need editors, and they don't know where to find us. And so being able to bridge the gap, I think I want to be able to continue to bridge the gap of not being afraid to, if you don't have a job in Hollywood, it's okay to find something else and be okay with that. If you do want to go in Hollywood and still go through the channels, it's okay. There is still some resources and we can be able to try to at least share that. And there's other groups and entities that are still putting in the work, like Stay in LA. I always tell people follow them if you want to know what's going on with the tax incentives and what's going on with California and making sure we have projects here at home, a good place for that. Different groups and entities that just help us all grow. I think social media now, more and more groups are starting to pour more resources.
Yeah.
So I just want to be able to continue to just, if y'all out there, send me y'all stuff so I can continue to blossom. I think the goal now, I kind of at first I was like, my goal is I want to get a lot of followers, but I'm okay with the slow burn. I don't want to, I think someone asked me, they were like, I can get you to 10K. And I'm like, because I don't want to go the rabbit race and then, have all these bots and no, followers that don't have the connections when I make these posts of concernings of the industry. I like seeing the comments back. So continuing our mentorship program, I actually got my mentees together. It's over dang near 12 of them, 12, 15 at this point.
Nice.
So I've been able to kick off and bring them together and seeing them grow. And one of them went to Sundance this year. Another one has a couple of her own personal projects that's been on Amazon and Tubi, her own stuff. So it's been a joy to see QOP go from a phone call to be now a resource hub for anybody that wants to get into production in any styles and not be afraid whether you are below the line or above the line. Your role matters, and we will cheer you on that as much as I can. I try to repost, but then I also try to take my little breaks too.
Right.
But as much as I can, I want to be able to repost everybody's roles that they're doing because we all matter.
Fire. Guys, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Please keep up with Toni P and Queens of Production. Again, all the information is going to be in the description, YouTube, Instagram, newsletter, whatever the case may be. Again, this is for the aspiring or maybe even current filmmaker. Maybe there's a place you need to pivot. Maybe you thought you would go in one direction. Maybe you're like, no, but this other direction is calling me, but I need some resources. I need some help. Maybe some mentorship, some classes. Everyone is welcome, it sounds like, with Queens of Production to just learn the ropes, and especially centering people. That was just like, that's the best technology, if I can say it like that, that Toni referenced here. It's just enduring, just being cool to a few people. Things expand from there, connections expand from there. She gave her examples. I gave mine. We couldn't get into everything in this conversation, so keep up with her. Everything's in the link in the description. This has been our time with Toni P of Queens of Production. Toni, thanks so much. I'm going to be in touch for sure. This has been great.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. And make sure you follow. Like I said, you can go on our IG page, Queens of Production, Facebook as well, or you can go on www.queensofproduction.com and go to the YouTube channel, the IG Live Talk series. I actually have a full interview with my mentor on how to find a mentor. So I have so many different pockets, from sync licensing to costume design. Like, it's free knowledge for now. So
respect. Try to get in when you can. Yes. Respect.
Yeah.
I'm going to find that one with your mentor, by the way. I definitely tune in. Okay. Toni, Toni, this has been great. Thanks so very much. And guys, we'll see you on the next episode. Be well.
Bye, y'all.